Coming up on today's show, you can hack your way into a Tesla Model 3 and get a free one. GAC unveil a 7-seat concept EV. And what's the idea of perpetual brake pads? I'll tell you, those stories and more coming up today. Good morning, good afternoon and good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. It's Wednesday the 16th of January. My name is Martyn Lee, and I've been through every EV story I can find today, picked out the ones I think you need to know about, and here we go. Thanks to MyEV.com for helping make the show. As always, they've built the world's first marketplace all about EVs. And if you've checked it out a while ago, but you've not been back recently, check out MyEV.com. And maybe, just maybe, you want to do some window shopping. Maybe not buying a car today, but if you, like me, like to look at the kind of nice cars that are out there, for instance, you know, a bit of dreaming. Well, MyEV.com is good for that as well. My news yesterday that I had quit my job before Christmas, my full-time job that I've done radio for 25 years. It was a solid career, could have done that for the next 25 and got to 65, took my pension and it probably wouldn't have broken a sweat. But I think there's something bigger and I want to see if it's out there. And I'm so mad excited about what is coming in the next few weeks when I can share it with you. It has also seemed to have struck a chord with those who listen and maybe have done something similar or who are chasing the dream to do something similar. So to those on Patreon who joined me yesterday and today, thank you very much. John. Now, John, who goes online by the name of BEARDY MCBEARDFACE, signed up as a partner, which is far too generous, and hopefully for just 1 month, but he has been listening for the last year, wanted to show a token of his appreciation and support and keeping him company in his daily routine. So thank you, John, who is otherwise BEARDY MCBEARDFACE, if you are part of the EV community and follow him. Hello to new executive producers of the podcast, Ashley Hill. Thank you, Ashley. Lawrence D. Allen. Hello to Walter McVeigh, who, again, I follow on Twitter a lot, and I learn a lot from following people like Walter. Hello to John. Now, John Nodal, or Nodell, thank you very much. Borislav Borisov, a new executive producer. Seiki Payne, thank you. And Jeff Erbs, or Erbies, E-R-B-E-S. Is Jeff's name. How do you think I say Jeff's name? I've probably got it wrong. Well, hopefully one of those is right. New exec producers of the podcast. Hello to William Anzueto, a new producer of the show. Hello to Pete Gorton, a new producer who is loving his i3 and his 7 kilowatts of PV on his roof. All right, for some. Hello to Mark Garnett, who has probably listened to this podcast longer than most and encouraged me along the way. Hello to Stay Burkett, a new producer of the show and who found me recently. He says, been looking for a new podcast to add to his routine and recently discovered the podcast. Thank you. And to Marty Young as well. Marty with a Y but no N. I'm Marty with a Y and an N, a new producer. And to Bruce Harrison. Thank you, Bruce. And R.W. Savage. Thank you too. I know it's been a long intro to the podcast, but I got to say thank you to those people for joining up on Patreon. Let's kick off with the news then, and some clarification of a story that I reported on from rideapart.com about the new Harley-Davidson electric Harley, and one of the stats was 59 miles range, but that wasn't the combined cycle, so I got that wrong, and I want to correct myself. Sabrina at rideapart.com, Sabrina Giacomini, has this clarification. In recent years, she said, innovation hasn't really been part of Harley's brand lingo, almost as if they've been sitting on their legacy and relying on that to sell bikes. The Live Wire, which is their EV bike, has the potential to change that and open some new doors. It hasn't completely failed, but she says it hasn't really succeeded, and there are two reasons for that. And what are those two reasons? Well, one of the ones I gave was range, but again, I was only quoting you one of the figures. There is a combined cycle range. She says that today, more people have access to EV bikes than ever, and 110 miles is decent for an electric bike, but maybe not enough for the Live Wire to stand out. There's stylish, efficient and affordable EV bikes out there, and now we all know an electric orange comes at a price because the Harley-Davidson is bright orange. The company announced on Monday the Live Wire was on track to be about $30,000, a whisker under $30,000. With young adults dealing with more debt than ever, $30,000 for a bike would be spent on maybe their first car or even groceries, let's face it. So then with Harleys, you are then moving into the market of people maybe like myself, 40 and thinking I'd love to add a bike to the garage. Not that Mrs. Lee will let me, but it's not that young crowd that they want to bring into Harley. Well, the company announced on Monday that the price is shy of other EV bikes out there. For instance, there's $35,000 bikes that no one else seemed to have as much criticism over. They also had the opportunity to bring Alta Motors on board a while ago. They're a well-established competitor in the field of EV bikes, and they would have propelled the Harley-Davidson Livewire forward in their ambitions. Would a partnership have resulted in a cheaper Livewire, says Sabrina? Probably not, but Alta's contribution to the project could have meant a sweeter deal for the money with their technology. The Harley website says this, and I've looked this up. This is the direct quote to correct myself, and I quote, "The high-voltage battery, or RESS, provides an estimated 110 miles of range measured using the mixed-use cycle. Riding range estimates based on the current SAE testing of the Livewire concept motorcycle. Actual riding range will vary based on several factors like weather and driving conditions," end quote. So I was going off watching a video with Jay Leno, where Jay Leno had said after 59 miles you got to recharge, but I think maybe whatever figure he was looking at, I think it was like not the mixed use combined cycle. So there is my correction and clarification on that. Well, moving on to something with four wheels, Link & Co. Car maker Link & Co. is progressing with the development of its fourth model, which will take the shape of a compact hatchback. This fresh batch of spy photos, captured by the excellent Motor1.com, reveal the company's in advanced stages of testing a prototype with less camouflage, says Anthony from Motor1.com. According to the information, the model will be based on the architecture that underpins Volvo's revamped 40 series of compact cars, and the Swedish hatch and the small wagon are rumoured to be fully electric. That won't be the case, though, with Link & Co. So the small Volvos are going to be all EV. Link & Co, though, may be a ICE-powered vehicle, but maybe under the skin some hybrid technology with a 1.5 litre engine and a motor. The system would be good in the Link & Co for about 50 miles of range. I'll put a link to the Motor 1 article in the show notes. Well, moving on to something that I found on motorsport.com today. And we told you recently on the podcast about Jaguar Land Rover here in the UK having tough times and losing some people from their staff. They revealed they're cutting 4,500 jobs, about 10% of their global workforce, the majority of them in management roles in the UK. And that's always terrible news when people are affected by something like this. The company is going to start a voluntary redundancy scheme, says Alex Kalinokis from Motor1.com. But this Motorsport.com article that I found, James Barkley, who is the Formula E squad's team principal for Jaguar, was talking about what that means for Formula E's racing squad. They're going to carry on racing for the long term, as it fits with their recent drive towards electrification, which they say is the future of the Jaguar brand. It's an unprecedented time for the car industry, he told Motorsport.com. A lot of geopolitical factors are affecting the industry, and probably what he's talking about there are things like the slowdown in China, in diesel sales in the UK, and Brexit in the UK, which could, even if it holds up a truck at the border for a few hours or a day, that doesn't work if you want to make a car. Cars are made with just-in-time supply chains and logistics. You don't have bits sitting at your factory. The parts arrive, ideally, a minute before they're going to be bolted onto the car. Not that I'm no expert on building cars, but what you don't want is stockpiling parts. It doesn't work to build cars. You build them where you can get the parts too. So depending on what happens here in the UK with Brexit, and it's all up in the air at the moment, depends on whether Jaguar have an easier time of making cars. There's also consumer confidence as well, by the way. People aren't spending money at the moment because we don't quite know what life is going to be like outside of Europe for the UK. And again, what will happen? So he says, we have to take key decisions now to protect the long-term future of the company. It's important we make the steps now, but at the same time, we also announced we're building electric drive units at our engine manufacturing plant in Wolverhampton, which is in the middle of the country, by the way, and building a battery plant in Birmingham. which is near Wolverhampton, by the way, for those that don't know our wonderful geography. I'll put a link to the motorsport.com article in the show notes if you're interested. Well, moving on to some Chinese names, and GAC Motor. GAC Motor officially announced it has registered a North American sales company in Irvine, California, near LA. The regional headquarters will be responsible for branding, marketing, product planning, and financial affairs. GAC Motor also announced at the press conference they did that there is an R&D centre in Detroit. They have now begun operations. Located in Michigan, the new R&D centre was built with an investment of $4.5 million. And as for their new concept car, well, that is called the GAC Entrance. Well, like entrance with a Z. Entranzi. Anyway, it's a slick, bullet-shaped car, they say. Breathtaking in the flesh. You can tell this is a press release. Breathtaking in the flesh, and introduces new brand proportions. No one talks like this in the real world. Carrying on with their press release, new 3-2-2 seating arrangements, in other words, 3 up front on a bench seat, then 2, means there's an aircraft-inspired aisle. The 2 side-mounted displays for functional feature control and some curved displays for passenger entertainment inside. Most of the car is made of environmentally sustainable materials, thanks to the interior of the Entrance, which they've stylised in all caps, by the way. So they've put a random Z in the middle of the word, and they've made it all capitals. Thanks for that. It's more influenced by home decoration than cars, they say. Maybe they spent too long in IKEA and want to make their car look like the inside of a lounge. I'll put a link to the Inside EVs article in the show notes so you can see the pictures of this bullet-shaped car. Well, staying with Inside EVs, actually, they've been talking about the Renault Zoe, and they've expanded their fleet in a car-sharing initiative in Spain. And once again, we're changing C's for Z's here. So rather than the word city, the car-sharing service is called Zity. I'm not sure that works, by the way. Maybe it works in Spain, Z-I-T-Y. When you say it out loud, it just sounds like someone's got some facial problems. Anyway, the new service, Zity, in Madrid, is very popular, as it turns out. 160,000 people have almost used that in the first year. The fleet of 500 Renault Zoes, it's the new big battery one, the ZE40, is soon to be expanded with another 150 by the end of January. And we don't know the number of trips taken, but as many customers were using Zity, I hate saying that, more than once, it's on track for profitability at all. Well, if you have enjoyed Zity, let me know. And if you have any problems with Zity, I think you can get a cream from the chemist for that. Well, moving on to McLaren, and I want to talk about... so last weekend I was at the Autosport International show here in the UK, and I've talked about a few things that I did, made some videos while I was there as well. Maybe you've seen those. One of the things that I saw was, a few years ago, a car that just was breathtaking and blew me away, and it still does. The McLaren P1. Well, Autoclassics.com website. Autoclassics. So the P1 is now officially a living legend. It's 6 years old, but it's still as awe-inspiring, and I would agree with that when I saw it up close. Well, Motorius, I must tell you more about Motorius, by the way. Motorius hosted the McLaren car at the Autosport International, says Autoclassics.com. Although it's not a plug-in car that you would do too many miles on electric power alone, it was... The McLaren P1 was an early hybrid supercar, and using the Formula One-inspired hybrid technology for performance. It was the first of a new breed. Now, these days, no supercar even gets considered without having a big old battery inside to help out the wheezing fossil engine that's still floating around in there. And since then, we've had fully electric supercars, the Rimac 1, or the Concept 1, the Rimac C_2, and many more exciting, fast EVs coming, like the new Tesla Roadster and that new Audi e-tron as well. But that McLaren P1, many years ago, really pioneered hybrid technology, and it was a real honour to go and just see one up close at the show, so I thought I haven't told you about that yet. Well, a couple more stories today. And first of all, what about talking about brake pads? Not the sexiest of topics, but I'll tell you why. Between Christmas and New Year, Elon Musk was tweeting about brake pads. He said that they would literally never need to be replaced. And is that a little bit of creative license being used there? Because of the Tesla regen braking, cutting down brake pad use compared to a conventional car, it seemed a little too good to be true. So Eric Schilling at Jalopnik put his claims to the test. He asked a few makers to comment on it. He asked Jaguar, who responded with this, and I quote, "The brake pads on the I-Pace do indeed need to be replaced periodically. As you might imagine, the rate at which it's required varies widely according to the owner based on his or her driving style. The battery must be below 80% on the I-Pace for full regen, because you don't want to try and stuff electrons back into a full battery. The resistance provided by the motors gradually does decrease the fuller the battery, and then you have to use the standard braking system." Eric also asked GM, and they said this, and I quote, "The regen braking system on the Bolt EV allows the vehicle to decelerate with less use of the hydraulic braking system. However, the actual mileage that the brake's lining life could be extended varies due to the parameters under which the vehicle is driven." End quote. So again, not fudging an answer, just being more considered. So none of them going as far as Elon saying they'll never need to be replaced. Tesla didn't reply to official comment, by the way, but hey, if Elon Musk has tweeted about it, I don't want to be the press person that then contradicts him, so they didn't get back. Moving on to diesel, and just a real quickie here in the UK, searches for diesel cars on Auto Trader have plummeted 40% over the past 2 years. The online classified marketplace said the proportion of fuel-related searches attributed to diesel on Auto Trader dropped from a high of 71% 2 years ago to a record low of just 47% of searches last month. In a new Motor Trade article, annually from 17 to 18, there was a 40% increase in people looking for EVs, and electric alone recording a spike of 52%. In just 2 years, searches for EVs on Auto Trader have increased by 130%. Wow, that's huge. I don't tend to use Auto Trader as much as I used to, because I'm really into EVs, and it's quite hard because you've got to sift through a lot of menus, and also the dealers list their cars on there, and they often don't make it EV friendly. They don't tell you the information that you really need. Like if you have an EV friendly website like myev.com, then people can list it properly and say, well, if they're talking about the Tesla, they can say, well, hey, look, this is the facelifted one, or it's got the new seats, for instance, and it can tell you the information that you need to know. It will even, tell you things like, oh, this is the battery lease, or this is the battery that you buy. Normal websites that sell cars just don't really go into that level of detail, and it makes buying an EV from one of those kind of sites just more hassle than it's worth. Well, finally, I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. Could you hack your way into a free Tesla Model 3? Well, Tesla's been working closely with white hat hackers. They're the good guys, by the way, for years in order to make its vehicles safer. And now they're taking an unprecedented step. They're going to give away a Model 3 to one hacker who can crack the vehicle. Says Fred Lambert at Electric, over the last 4 years, Tesla has a bug bounty program. If you find a bug in the software, they give you some money. Hundreds of thousands in rewards to various hackers have all been given away by Tesla. They increased their maximum payout recently to $15,000 and took a great step in reassuring owners that their vehicles were hack-proof. They said that if you do hack a Tesla, by the way, intentionally, it won't void your warranty if the vehicle is hacked for pre-approved and good faith research. If you find a vulnerability, you tell Tesla, you get your money, the car gets everyone's car gets an overnight update pushed out to it, and they get just a little bit safer. What other car maker can say that? Well, now the top prize being offered is more than $15,000. It's now a Model 3, a free car to the winner of a hacking contest. So on to our question of the week. Thank you very much for joining in with this. Thanks to myev.com for setting the question. Here it is. How much should EVs reinvent the concept of the car? And how much should EVs conform to what's expected? Email your answer to hello@evnewsdaily.com. You can leave the feedback online like YouTube and myev.com. There are 170 patrons of the show now. I know. Thank you so much. And you can check it out, patreon.com/evnewsdaily. Thanks to our premium partners, Phil Roberts of Electric Future, electricmotoring.net, and I got a lovely note from Brad Crosby, who heard my announcement that I've packed in the full-time job. Got a few more weeks left before I finish up my notice period. And Brad says, well done, dude, good luck. There are 358 previous episodes online for free where you get podcasts from, and you can subscribe to any new ones to get them first and free and automatically. Come and say hi on the socials by searching EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow.